Glad to see you. Aaron, it's always a pleasure to be in the podcast room with you. How the heck are you?
I'm actually doing really great, man. There's a lot of cool stuff going on, so I'm excited about this podcast.
This is our second recording session of the day, not for the podcast, but we had an opportunity to be on the local news earlier today, which was really awesome.
Yeah, unfortunately, they always let us play this game with them because we always end out the show. And
oh, yeah, our viewers will love this story.
It's Adam and a host versus me and a host, so teamed up. And we tied, and that's the worst.
I can't wait to watch the playback because I feel like the last thing that you're going to see is me literally yelling, no, as we realized that we ended in a tie, and then they went to like their sign-off page or whatever. It's going to be fantastic. Well, I just got tongue-tied there, and then it sounded like I said a cuss word. I promise I didn't. You guys know that I have strict rules.
With us today,
we're so glad that you're back with us. I promise I'm not on here dropping the bombs. That's Aaron's job. But make sure that you like and subscribe and share with your friends. Smash that like button. Hit that subscribe. I always got to look at Durango when I say that because it's the rules and what we got to say. But we're super excited to be on another episode, Work Hard, Play Harder, with another great guest. We've got Rodich on with us here today. Did I say it right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, thank you. And we got the applause. Way to go, Durango, my guy. Awesome.
On
Connor,
point.
Thank you so much for stopping in. You're
Thanks,
all the
man.
way from Oklahoma.
South Carolina now.
South Carolina now. Okay.
I'm from Oklahoma.
Yeah,
Okay.
By
We were
way
talking
of Oklahoma.
By way of
Gotcha.
Oklahoma, yeah. Made a meander in 2020, so I'm over there in a little SC now, the upstate.
In for a little family reunion and looked us up and said hello.
Looked you up. I was like, man, I'm such a fan of the podcast. I just had to come on. No, I'm just kidding. Well, I mean,
you should have let that go. That was totally fine.
Dang it. No, I'm a fan. But no, Aaron and I know each other, and we met at RoofCon this last year. So,
Yeah.
But no, I've never been to your office or seen obviously I haven't been in the studio before, but I wanted to drop by and see some folks.
Say what's up. Yeah, man, it was cool. I saw you're coming in, and you tagged me in a post coming to Indy. So of course I had to hit you up and meet up with you, man. And this was last minute, so there was no plan. He was like, "Hey, man, want to grab some lunch or dinner tomorrow?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's cool because it's a little busy today. We got to shoot a podcast. Unless you want to come on the podcast."
Be the guy.
This is 2 hours ago, and he's like, "What the hell? I'm on my way." So,
Yeah, that's awesome.
yeah, worked out great.
Well, very cool. Well, we're excited to have you in here, and you've got a pretty awesome background, and even what you get to work on in what you do today. So we'll get into that and have some conversations and have some fun. That's for sure.
Love it, and I love the name, the Work Hard, Play Harder.
Yeah. What does that mean to you, Connor? Let me ask you, just right off the bat.
Side of things. No, I'm a big. I know that's a very used term, the work hard, play hard. But man, there's nothing that's more fun than like winning and working hard in winning, and then being able to I'm a big believer. So what does it mean to me? What it means to me is more of the thoughts that it brings me. And so what those thoughts are the idea. I've always said this. It's not about me to the folks that I employ and to the people that are incredible assets in my team. It's not about me going in and being alone on the yacht. It's about having the party on the yacht, right?
Yeah.
And bringing everybody with me. So I love the play harder piece because that's that's what resonates with me. That's what I think about when I'm like, man, all the hard work. It's all about what you can do or what you can create with your work. So that's awesome.
What's the point of doing all of the work if you're not enjoying yourself? If you're not enjoying the time that you have with the people around you? So that's why it's work hard, play harder instead of work hard, play hard.
Yeah, because we don't want to use overused.
Yeah.
Hey, I've got another question for you. I'm going to have a whole host of questions for you, so I don't know why I said that.
Ready.
But do you have a yacht?
I do not.
Oh,
it'd be
I
super
got all
cool if I
excited.
did, though. Not yet. I always say not yet. So those are things not yet.
I rented one with my brother in Miami the other day, and I made sure and take some pictures and send them to Adam.
You did.
I love boats.
You did
and so
everybody out there think, oh man, Aaron Christy, he's rolling,
balling.
Yeah, it was rented, but I just wanted to make sure and get a picture of Adam because he was in the office.
Yeah.
So that
he was like, I hate you.
It's always fun when we have friends like that, isn't it? That will send us wonderful videos.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
No, that's what resonates with me, because it's all about, which I'm sure we can get into some of that, but I do it for people, man. I do it for opportunities. I want to be a creator of opportunities. I'm sure you guys do too. So
absolutely.
it's all about the playing harder, because it has to be for some reason. So I love that.
That's awesome. Well, give us a little bit of your background. What kind of where you come from? You're obviously pretty successful. You're in the roofing industry and in doing some consulting for companies and helping them. And but let's start at the beginning. So when you were 4 years old,
yeah, let's get into the
back in Oklahoma,
therapy conversation.
No, just kidding. But yeah, give us some of your background.
So background is, to keep it short and sweet, a lot of trying a lot of different things, and I have a new saying that I'm going about it, where like being an entrepreneur is like a river, and I think that we're all trying to find the ocean. And so in the process, you're going to have all these different cricks, you're going to have all these different little things that you kind of run down, and like ultimately at the end of it, it's like where the goal is to find the ocean, right? And so so my journey is a lot like that on the entrepreneurial spectrum in terms of my upbringing and those sorts of things. So born and raised Tulsa, Oklahoma. I lived inside state lines until 2020. And through that process, I was also working for some pretty top tier tech organizations out of New York City and Washington, D.C. Mm-hmm. Pretty boring background, to be completely honest. I was a 4.0 kid out of high school, and then I did what a lot of people do that got 4.0s in high school. They go off to college, and I wasn't necessarily like partying or screwing around like that. It was just more of like I think I was just ready to go get to making money. And so I had some things, some side hustles. I was always working, et cetera. I was a collegiate athlete as well for a couple of years. And so ultimately I ended up finding my way into corporate America and doing some awesome tech stuff. And I was started at the bottom. I was the lowest man on the totem pole. I worked in calling. I was basically doing cold calls every day, cold emails every day, trying to get into sales organization side of things. And so ultimately which was honestly a pretty well paying job, considering that like that era, there wasn't a whole social sphere of like, oh, you could make money online, you could do this, do that. When back then it was like, you go to school and then you whatever, or at least that's what I was told. So, but got through and did that for several years. And like I said, worked out for a company out of DC and then out of New York City. And then essentially I found myself to be in a position where I was like, yeah, I know I'm going to eventually either be a CEO or be an owner of something, because I'd already I did some business with family, which I learned a valuable lesson there.
You always do.
So I learned that, but I started that in like 2016, 2017, kind of dabbling in things. I'd always been entrepreneurial spirit, right? But for me to start kind of dabbling my toe in it in a more formal fashion. So started off with a golf course with my father, and that was a learning lesson. And then my brother-in-law with a restaurant, and then ended up being just a guy that was like, I stumbled into roofing. So I ended up knowing, and I've said this on multiple podcasts, so, some redundant information, but Chase Johnson was a friend of mine out of Denver, Colorado. He has, Roofs by Johnson. And I'd also known like Paul Reed and some of those guys just from an extension standpoint.
Right.
And so I was interested in roofing from seeing the thing that I always say was kind of like the moment was I was walking through Chase's office one day when I was just out there in Colorado. I was kicking it. I was going to do my skiing, snowboarding outing with him. And I walked in his office. There's a $500,000 check sitting on the table. I'm like, are you going to deposit that? And so, and then at that point, it kind of like just clicked for me. I was like, man, there must be something with this roofing thing. And in his mind, it was, and I was walking by, it was like a pass-through office when like I was being nosy, but he was like, yeah, I'll get to it like next week. And I was like, oh, okay. So that was kind of like my aha moment of like, oh, I should probably be looking into this or seeing more about it. And so I landed myself in the industry late 2018. And then, so it hasn't been that long.
Yeah.
And then basically went through a gamut of a couple business partners and found my way, and ended up getting into a merger, and that ended up being a 8-figure company. And then obviously met you at the Revolt stuff and roofing.com, RoofCon, all that sort of stuff. And we talk about that a little bit if you want, but ended up going down that path and then restarting another company again after I exited that. And now we're back on track for 8 figures again. So, I mean, I think the moral of the story is like, just again, the river, trying different things, finding my way, as an entrepreneur, figuring it out. I hopped off the corporate bandwagon in 2019. And I think that was the biggest jump. And then now it's the second, third, fourth biggest jumps in terms of like the evolution of the entrepreneur that I'm becoming, which is to figure out how to really create a powerful empire and to be able to do it with finesse and deliberate moves. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
that's awesome. That was a great way to, give that background. I do want to go back since you brought the river thing back up and all that. For those of our viewers who might not speak Oklahomese, a crick, he's talking about a creek that turns into a river.
Bro. Thanks, brother. Thank you. Bridging the gap for our listeners. Yeah, thanks.
No, I'm just teasing. No, that was, in all seriousness, I love that analogy because it's great and it fits well. So yeah, you got an awesome and eclectic background. That's really cool. Definitely want to learn a little bit about your collegiate sport.
Was it badminton?
What? Dude,
first person
guesses.
No one ever guesses in the first.
I knew it.
So, yeah, there's a deeper level story, and I mean, I'll just let you guys guide that. I mean, I had a lot of health issues, and a lot of it was injury related, but some of it was not. Some of it was just going through the experience of life, always being a very top tier performer, and then ending up causing some autoimmune issues and some other stuff. And I've recovered from a lot of that. But yeah, I went through and played college. I was actually a very high level hockey player coming out of high school.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Played out of Dallas, played for Team USA, played for Team Texas, played for some of those, higher level organizations.
That's pretty cool, man.
And then ended up kind of getting to, and there's a plethora of guys that I played alongside that are like in the show right now or
That's
have
awesome.
played. So it's pretty cool. I definitely, no one knows, right? But it was a great experience. Told me a lot about life, taught me a lot about life. But I did that, and then I ended up actually having a fallback to falling into football because in my senior year I had a lot of health issues and injury issues, and so then when hockey kind of went by the wayside, I became a little bit more focused on football, and then I ended up also playing baseball as well in the spring, and then I ended up going to school originally to an NAIA college out of Oklahoma, Southern Nazarene, to play baseball and football at the same time, believe it or not. And then ultimately I wound up being at Central Oklahoma. That's where I graduated from, but I played college hockey there for a brief period of time. And so, awesome. But ultimately that, the couple years that I played, it was a challenge, but that was a very hard time for me to close that chapter on my life because I'm a big time athlete and whatever. So
I think all of that was just in practice. For the culmination of the Revolt football game where you threw me the game-winning pass all the way down the field. I catch it.
You caught that, didn't you?
High stepping into the end zone.
Caught that.
Crushed their spirits.
Is there a video of this?
There is.
There is.
Oh. Cool.
Yeah,
let's see if we can get our hands on that.
I can toss a pigskin.
Yeah, dude.
That's pretty cool.
Dropped it right in the bucket. So, yeah, that was solid.
No,
was it a better throw or was it a better catch?
I'd say it was a good combo, but it was a perfect throw because here's the thing. If I would have thrown it to him, it probably wouldn't have been right on spot and it would have been harder for him to catch. So we had the good combo. He's throwing to me. It worked
Chemistry.
I have this video. Yeah. I believe it's on my Facebook somewhere, Durango. I'll get it to you.
We'll have to see if we can put that in there. I just want to see an Aaron Christy high stepping into the end zone.
All right, wait. Now that we're getting the video, I made up the high stepping.
See, there it is.
But I did hoof it all the way to the end zone and stop. I might have spun the football. I'm not sure.
That's cool.
No, he did a good job. He was awesome. He was the MVP for sure.
So, a lot of time, this is the fascination that I have, and frankly, I was just having this conversation with somebody not too long ago. The world is a very interesting place, and especially as an employer looking for employees, it's a very interesting place. And I made this statement to someone that I stand behind at the present moment. Like, there's so many people and kids and everything that have went to college and have gotten college degrees, and that's cool and that's great. I'm not putting it down. Mm-hmm. But for the teams that I have right now, in all facets of what Aaron and I do, I would much rather have a successful high school athlete employed on most of my teams than I would a college graduate, just because of what it teaches, the teamsmanship, the work ethic. And that's the kind of thing that, I don't know, I just feel like some of the degrees are just ink on paper, and is that person really that smart? And the value of a dollar can increase and decline based on how much gold is backing it. And that's kind of how I feel about college degrees, just to some extent. I feel like everybody went out and got one. Again, I'm not putting it down at all. If my kids want to go to school, I want them to go to school, get a degree. That's great. I'm just saying, I love the connection as a business owner to hiring someone that's been on a team that knows what it's like to work hard, and that you win together and you lose together.
Yep.
And what that feels like. And so has that transferred in? I know that it has.
Yeah,
let me ask a better question. How has that transferred into your professional career?
I think leadership, number one. Like, you learn how to be a leader of yourself first, because you have accountability for yourself, right? And then you can further enforce accountability of others, because when you put yourself in the trenches like that, then you have a newfound. Like, I'm the type of believer of leading from the front. I'm never going to tell somebody to do something of which I can't or will not do, right? Yep. So I think that there's a lot of development in leadership, of your own leadership first, and then however that plays out, I think, is on a case-by-case basis in terms of how well you lead. But I think there's 4 types of people in business, right? You have your executives, your leaders, you have your managers, and then you have your worker bees, right? And so I think that, like, what I've found is to be similar, right, with the sports acumen and those types of things, they help flow into the business. But I think, like, the goal, or what you're really after, especially when you're in startup or you're not in a well-established business, is to try to find the more entrepreneurial-led people that are, good for their own accountability and problem solving for themselves, and all of those things tie into sports.
Totally agree. Sounds like you've read the book, The E-Myth by Michael Gerber.
I have not.
You haven't?
No.
Oh my gosh.
Am I just speaking his language?
You are speaking his language and his layout.
I don't know nothing. I mean, I've read a lot of books, so
yeah. No, I'll have to send a copy to you. It's a great book that talks
that's cool.
about the why that flow works.
Yeah, that's sweet.
So yeah, it's a great book.
Well, yeah, and I think that the number one thing that I have been after more recently, right? And I think everybody goes through their phases of entrepreneurship, and what are you really trying to accomplish, right? I think that those things change. The end game is not something that you always have to know. And I think that's what I'm battling with. Like, for me, it's like, I know what I want to create, which is an insanely profitable opportunity creating empire that can do so much more than the work that is being done, right? But I think in terms of the way that you go about that, instead of me focusing on the vehicle or the avenue or whatever, like I said, like it's the river to the ocean. It's like, you're going to try so many different ways and so many different things to get there, right? And I think that something I've been listening to more about myself or about that journey is, like, you don't have to have the exactness of that figured out. Just be on the path. And so on the path, to me, is investing in your people, finding the right people that actually are like true vulnerable, ride or die type of people that you can really band with. Because at the end of the day, when you look at Warren Buffett and Charlie, or any of the combos, or even I'm on my Alex Hormozi kick right now. I'm a big Alex fan, and I'm going to meet him one day and we're going to be best buds. But, him and Layla and those types of things, you got to find your, like, really strong, which seems like you guys have that here, but like your really strong pairing. And then the ultimate success is going to be completely tied to the systemicness of how close you can create that culture, and how much it can be about the accountability and the leadership and the things that not just at surface level, not just core values on the wall, not just like those types of things, but really caring about your people, really investing in your people. So that's what I've been more focused on recently, is like I'm trying to like build the dream team, right? Because I think we all would say we're after that, but to be more intentional about the personal development in people, and to really try to find people that are, I would consider to be the ride or die type of folks that actually believe in, like, the mission, and regardless of where it takes you, kind of thing. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah, completely.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. You've, even before your consulting business, back when I met you, and you led a lot of people in Revolt. So between all of that, you've worked with hundreds of small and medium-sized businesses. Mm-hmm. Do you think that point is probably the largest factor in them improving, or what do you think is the biggest thing that you saw that you're like, hey, this is really what you need to start the trajectory of your business moving?
That is a great question. There are 3 things that I see most of the time, and that is almost always the case, right?
Yeah.
Is understanding the fundamentals of your business, understanding how to do business efficiently and effectively, There are always going to be things that happen in business. You can't control some things, but how do you create predictability, right? That's the first thing. The second thing is knowing your numbers, understanding what your business is actually providing you in terms of data, and actually understanding not there are multiple facets to that. How do I get the data? But then when I have the data, what do I do with the data, and how to actually make it work for me? And so that's the second thing. And the third thing is alignment, leadership development, all the things I was just talking about a second ago, okay, which is the third biggest. That's the one that's the glue. That's what I talk about. It's like, that is the glue. Like, if you don't have that, you can know data, you can have, the systems, the baseline, the operating system of sorts in your business, and all those things are great. But if you don't have effective and empathetic and humble and all the other things, leadership, and you don't actually learn how to become a strategic leader as an entrepreneur, you are your lid, like, period. Doesn't matter. So, and I think the concept of like always trying to find talent around you that's better than you is definitely a fundamental concept. But even more, it needs to be about why are you doing what you're doing. And what I think I always start with, like, and I'm not saying anything bad about Simon Sinek, but like, even more than starting with why, start with what are you wanting to create? What are you trying to do, right? What are you wanting to do with your business or with whatever vehicles you create? Because I'm a serial, so I have multiple, right? And all of it leads me back to the same thing, which is that I'm doing it for the people around me, and they feel that and they know that. And do I have all the answers and do I have all the expertise? No. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to be the lid to my organization, and I'm very intentional about that. Those are the three things.
That's awesome. And I heard you say the first point, and he's always talking about creating the system that replicates the same thing every single time. And he's always talking about, the McDonald's cheeseburger. It's not the best, but you know exactly what you're getting every single time. So that's hilarious. I was like, as soon as he started talking, I was like, Adam loves this. Numbers, data, system.
But those three things are true, though, and I find that all the time. Like, I think the number one thing is I go into businesses, and this is much more technical, but I go into businesses and they think they have their books together, or they think they have I'm like, you're overstating AR $500,000. You're understating this. You're like, yeah, you think you do, but you don't. And that would, I would say, be the more technical thing. But those three things, right, with the system, the baseline systems, operating systems, the knowing your numbers, and the leadership acumen, is the three things I would say are the lid to your business.
Awesome.
That was a good question.
That's a good question.
Thanks,
right?
man.
And a great answer. Almost like that pass that was thrown.
We have a great chemistry.
Yeah,
evidently.
Actually, I texted it to him on the way here. I was
yeah,
like, be
it's like,
prepared.
hey, be ready for this one. No, that's awesome. That's really cool. So let me ask you this then. What? So those are some of the things that can be the lid if not enacted properly and all that. What are some of the things that you see that just downright just hurt a business? When you're working with some of these customers that you see on a regular basis, like, wow, this is definitely something that a lot of people struggle with or deal with, and it impacts their business in a negative way.
In the most respectful way, ignorance.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Go on about that.
So they think that they know what they don't know. And I think that is something that we all have been plagued by at one point, right? But a lot of it, and I just got done talking on John Dye's podcast not that long ago, and one of the things we talked about was talking about people that are not looking at what's happening around them. They in the industry at large, right? And you guys are probably more in tune with it than others, but because you are of that level of business acumen, and your business is a strong and healthy company. But a lot of businesses, they are being ignorant to the things that are going on around them, or they're just going to consistently.
Why do you think that is?
I think
I don't disagree with you. I actually agree with you immensely. Why do you think that is?
I think because it's the trade. Like, you guys, I mean, you came from real estate, right? No,
Not even close.
Okay, sorry.
You're gonna make him keep guessing.
We're off on our chemistry here now.
All right.
That was a fumbled pass.
I came from sales at my family's business, which was education.
Okay, and then your background, I know, is not in roofing.
No, it is not. Home security.
Okay, and so those two things, and not that I'm sure there's much more detail to your life stories, but the fact of the matter is that's typically the case when I run into a company, and it's like, well, and I'm not saying it's coined as the one thing that will lead you to more prosperity, but is that you are not only native to this business, right? Mm-hmm. You're not only native to this industry. I find that those people understand that they're more lifelong learners and understanding of other things, because they aren't the third, fourth generation, and they've
pigeonholed into some thinking.
Correct. The toolbox.
I will tell you, that was one of the things I think helped me the most, was knowing that I didn't know shit.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And so like that's when I came and met you, and like I've visited other people around the country, Heath Hicks and Dustin Biegler,
Rest in peace.
Yeah, rest in peace. But a lot of people, and they've helped me, and I was open, and I said cool, and there were things that I took from every single business that I thought could improve our business. And, and that's kind of how I built it. Whereas I think if somebody did something one way their whole life, like that's the way that they're going to do it.
Yeah.
You
run into a lot more. One of the things that every business battles against, and we even have to on a regular basis, like check into it here, is why are we doing something the way that we're doing it?
Absolutely.
And if we don't ask the question, why are you doing it? And because most of the time what happens is the why is just because that's the way that we've always done it.
Yep.
And this is a funny quick story that I learned that I tell frequently when we're talking about this. But lady cooking a Christmas ham for her family, just like has been done for years and years and years and generations, and she's cooking, and she starts to think like, okay, part of the recipe, as she's learned how to cook the family Christmas ham is to cut the ends of the ham off. And finally one day she was just inquisitive enough to say, Mom, why do we cut the ends of the ham off when we're making the Christmas ham? Does it like help absorb the juices better, or like why are we doing that? She's like, I don't know. That's just the way that Grandma taught me to do it. And so that's the way we do it. And they're like, well, let's figure this out. So they call Grandma, why do we cut the ends of the ham off? And she looks at him kind of puzzled, and she says, well, I don't know why you guys do, but I did it because the ham wouldn't fit in the pan that I had. Yeah. So, and now 2 generations later, they're just doing it because that's what they picked up on, and it's just the way that you did it. But if you're not challenging to say, why are we doing it this way, and have circumstances or influences change to where we need to make a change to a process, to a system, to our business in general.
Yep.
That's a great story, by the way.
I love that story.
Yeah.
There's also there's tons of stories that are like that, where it's like generations that pass, and sure about the whole like ants in a container, and they learn that they are monkeys and whatever it is, that where like they learn that they can't leave, and so the other ones die off, and then they just know what they know, right? You don't know what you don't know. So I like that. Those types of analogies are cool. I
thought for sure it was gonna be like she had to cut the asshole or something. You know what I mean? Like, hey, we slaughtered the pig. We had to cut the butt off or something.
Gosh.
Here we go.
And like that's where my brain was going.
That would actually make more sense, actually.
That would.
But yeah, you got a challenge.
Yeah, no. So I mean, I think that what you run into with people like you and I think, well, and so to say this, and I'm not self-proclaiming to be a unicorn by any means, like, and there's a lot of that visionary integrator stuff going on. I play both roles. I play in both at a very high level. In terms of the test scores and those types of things, it's, very high on both, 92, 96, 94, 90, whatever, like it's pretty much like I can do either or, right? And I think, so with that, it's like, there's pros and cons to that skill set. That sometimes I'm like, I feel it from both sides. So then I've been better about the indecisiveness, but then there's some times where it does benefit me. And so one of those things that benefits me is that I see what you're talking about. A lot of times with us, we as more the operational minded people are focused on systemizing it so much that we end up actually creating more hurdles that we unnecessarily and unintentionally create. And so that's one of my biggest things that I talk about in the iteration of a company that is putting in their foundation is the foundation is set. We do things for purposes of getting in good reps and getting good flow of how business should be done. And then ultimately what we end up doing is like, once we put everything together, it's a ever existent organism. The business is an organism. It's growing, it's changing, it's moving, it's doing all these things. And so through that, you might have set things up. Like did this just a couple weeks ago, where like I set up a certain gate inside my company. It was like this person, like it has to go through them, and then it goes to the production or whatever, right? And one of those things, like we were evaluating it. It was just like a simple thing. I was like, why is this not done? They were like, well, because this person has to touch it first. And I'm like, why are we doing that? Because like upon further evaluation, I had set that up originally just so that it was a safety mechanism. But then I found out that, it was basically like, it should have been flip-flop because this person's getting held up by this person when that person could just, those types of things. So in evaluating like process development, there is a development phase and there's an implementation implementing phase, and then there is a continuing to refine phase, right? And then that refining, that is the part where I think, and we'll come back to the ignorance piece in a second, but from an operations perspective, I'm very much a believer of like, we don't just do things just to do things, right? And so some of that is being careful about that on the operational side. On the more visionary side, a lot of them are like, oh, none of that shit matters anyway, or a lot of it doesn't matter. But the fact of the matter is that it does. It's just there's a balance. There's a balance of what is necessary and what is overkill on process development.
Yeah, I think what a lot of people miss out there is you have to source solutions from those that are closest to or know the most about a situation. Yep. So what a lot of guys I'll see in our shoes will do is, they'll come up with a cool process, but they do it from a vantage point that isn't realistic within the company. And so then and then if God forbid you're not going back and doing process evaluation, then you can really be doing really hurting yourself.
I've been in that position as a sales rep where you're like, they give you this process to do.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
having never been in the field.
That's the kicker. Somebody that's sitting in an office over here that's never been in the field that is now telling me what I need to do, which I do 10 hours a day.
Right.
And I go, this doesn't make sense. Just do it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my God.
That's why you have to test and measure too, which is why I'm so adamant about that. Like we'll put in a new process. That's cool. I'll try any process once, but we're going to do it on a small scale. We're going to test and we're going to go back, evaluate, and then roll it out to everyone.
Yep. Back to the ignorance thing, just to wrap that up, because I want to finish on that. I'm not being disrespectful when I'm saying that, right? What I think it is ultimately is people, especially in our industry, which again, this podcast is to be industry agnostic. So it's, I'm sure, applicable to other industries too, is this mindset that we will just sell our way out, or we will just make revenue, make up for our losses, right? Or we will do so much that we can cover up all the mistakes, right? And that's a big reason as to why there's this ignorance, is because it's felt that as if it's not going to ever change. The fact of the matter is it's changing right now. The industry that we are in, that we're talking about, is changing right now. And every industry is changing, quite frankly. Yeah. It's not just our vertical, because it's money is sloshing in the market. People are making moves. Baby boomers are leaving. Things are happening from a M&A perspective about anywhere and everywhere. Private equity is, literally taking over real estate, taking over all these different places. And so, like, as an entrepreneur, I think you probably need to get in touch with your numbers. You probably need to get in touch with your systems to be more refined. You probably need to do those things, because the whole like cash cow, not that those things still won't exist, but like the whole element of like, oh, I'm just going to produce so much that it outproduces the flaws of my company, which is a lot of what that ignorance stems from. It's not going to, if it lasts forever, then okay, like it lasts forever and good for you. You're still missing out on refining your business and being more profitable or having better chemistry or alignment, whatever. But then at the same time, it's more than likely not going to be that way, and you better learn. So.
Yeah, and I don't think it can last forever, because I think what happens is what I see happening in the roofing industry right now, for example, where you take, back in the day, everybody and anybody could have a roofing company, and it's still that way to a degree. Like the shift is happening at the present moment, but then you get people that just have like business acumen, like you and like us, that we're not roofers, but we've got business acumen. And what happens is players like that come into a marketplace, they learn how to systematize what is going on, which means that they can have lower margins because they've got way better operational efficiencies, and then it drives those other businesses out. And so if you're not growing through those things and you're not working on your efficiencies, the cash cow does leave. Now you can still have it if you're moving with the just like standing in a river. When you stand in the river, you never stand in the same spot twice. Yep. Right? Because it's always moving by.
I love that. I'm gonna steal that, boy.
Yeah, I'm gonna let you have that one. It's even the same in a creek.
Hey, in a creek, baby.
Full circle. Brought it back full circle. No, I think it's important too that in any industry, with the rate that technology is going.
Oh, that's the other thing.
And everything, then the new apps that are coming out and the new processes, like the system processes that are coming out, you have to be learning and figuring these things out. Because I've been in the roofing industry for 6 years. It's been different.
Every year.
I've
felt the same thing. I've only been in since 2018. Every year.
Yeah, 2018.
That's when you, that's when he started.
Yeah.
Late, like I was like right at the end of 18, beginning of 19.
2017 actually, but I started my company in 18. But like none of the marketing's been the same. None, like every system has changed. Like literally almost everything about it has changed. And if I was just doing the same thing and never adjusted anything, it would be an awful system.
Yeah. I think the other thing that provides ignorance, though, too, is overwhelm. I think that a lot of my clients, you know, I've worked, as Aaron said earlier, I've worked with over 100 now to date, like intimately over 100. I mean, I've spoken at events and whatever, like I don't even know, revolt retreats, whatever. Like I'm not even counting that stuff. Not that it's not impactful or important in my life, but like I'm talking about like in the business, right? Over 100. And like this last year, I think I did over 40. It was between on-sites and speaking, it was like over 40 events literally this last year and flying everywhere. And one of the things that I found too is that a lot of it is overwhelmed. A lot of it is because these individuals that are primarily from the industry, right? They've done this way for a certain period of time, or, you know, maybe they're just so good at selling that they can sell their way out, those types of scenarios, right? Well, the fact of the matter is that they get overwhelmed, and so then therefore they shut down. And I think that is true to probably 50% of my clientele. Is
like
that
mentally, you mean?
Mentally, they are not of the fabric of
running to a problem.
Yep. Or they're inside the comfort level of how they address their problems and how they go about education, which I think this, not to go like real philosophical here, but like I think our number one problem as a society is not knowing how to learn. Like people don't understand
totally
how to
agree.
Learn. Okay. So, but the fact is,
and that's what I meant by, you know, the college thing that we were talking about earlier, where like it's a lot of people right now that you know how to pass a test. You haven't learned anything.
Correct.
You know how to pass a test.
Correct.
And there's a big difference in that.
Yep. So in that, because they don't understand how to learn, they're ignorant to it, right? And so one of the biggest things I find, because I am the nerd that reads Harvard Business and does all these different types of things, okay? I mean, I read 26 books last year and like full books and like digesting, like notating, doing things like, because that's how I am. I wasn't always that way, right? But I was intentional. One of the things I tell my own team is like, if you are not an active reader, like welcome to the club. I wasn't either. And one of the things that is one of the most grounding exercises to do is to read. It'll change your life just reading a little bit, right? Because it's so grounding and it's so much education. So nonetheless, let's get back on course here. These individuals, they will look at everything through the lens of Harvard, which is like, oh my gosh, the financial principles are extremely complex, or the way in which we construct business is so much more than just an entity trying to earn a profit. It's just so overwhelming that they just shut down. And so that's been one of my missions through what I've been doing, is trying to layman term it, but not be disrespectful to the principles, right? And so a lot of that is through like financial literacy inside a business, or things that are operationally sound, right? Making it to where it's like, listen, doesn't this make sense? Like if I whiteboarded it out for you, like, doesn't this mechanically make sense? And anybody, like there isn't one person I met and they've been like, oh yeah, absolutely. I'm good. Well, this is all we need to do. Now we just need to figure out the application and the route in which we're going to create this. Okay. And so hang with me. Don't get shut down because you're not able to get there, either from an educational standpoint or a literacy standpoint. Like, let's look at this and try to create this. And so, and then from there, it's just a matter of like doing small doses and bridging the gap as a consultant, because I think that's so much of what, like, and there's tons of BS consultants. There's tons of consultants doing great work out there. But I think by and large, the role as me as a consultant is to help you bridge that gap, okay, from where it's like very, very off course or feels like it's very difficult to digest, and like bringing you to a place of layman's terms or layman's terming it so that you can actually implement it and actually digest the information. And there's tons of people that, like, through financial practices I do, they're like, holy crap, if this was how I was described this whenever I was like in school, or not even in college, but like in high school, I might have had more of a desire to do this or whatever. And I think that's like, it's systemic, right? It's like, it's way bigger than this conversation, but that's it.
No, I totally agree, man. You have got to get that book that I recommended, the E-Myth, and you can weave that in with your clientele.
E-Myth.
It's called the E-Myth. Yeah. The entrepreneurial myth. Basically what it is it talks about a woman, we'll call her Aunt Betty. I can't remember her name, but she's really good at baking pies. And, the whole family's like, you're so good at baking pies, you should open up a pie shop. And so what does she do? She opens up a pie shop. Well, she's not good at running a business. She's good at making pies.
Yep.
And so what it is, it's just a parable story about running a business and what you need in place to do that. And you she's a great technician, and that's how it plays it. She's great at outputting the pies, but you have to have a manager who ensures that in a restaurant that ensures that the processes are being followed properly. And that is the role of a manager, is to ensure the processes are being followed. Yep. And then you've got somebody at like a director or VP level that they are the ones that are, and it lays it all out. It's exactly what you're talking about. And it's 100% true. If you're listening to this podcast, if you own a business, if you haven't read that book, go out and buy that book right now.
Love it. Yeah. And there's principles that I think from my experience, and I don't know and I'm first to admit it, right? I'm on that path right now. And I'm doing it by mode of M&A, to become a more acquisition based entrepreneur. But so I might come back a year from now and be able to have some interesting stuff to tell you, but by and large, I think that I have a very good, my mentality and my where I'm at in my entrepreneurial journey, because everybody, it's like, I explain like the steps of entrepreneurship. It's like the first one's like getting in the pool. Like, don't just put your toe in, like hop in. Then you're like, oh my God, I don't know what I'm doing. Whatever. So you get through all these different phases, right? And like my phase right now is like, I would not say a master, because that's going to sound super arrogant. And none of this, by the way, for those listening, I'm not trying to ever be arrogant about any of the things I say. I'm very confident in my experiences, and doesn't necessarily make them 100% true, but pretty good gauge on things. That being said, the what I'll say is that 3 to 30 million run, right? Or if you had to summarize it of sorts, right? 10xing, right? In that regard, I feel very confident about being able to like lay the picture out. And that picture usually consists of the 3 million has relatively, if any, leaders inside their organization.
Right.
It's usually solopreneur. It's usually like, and even the solopreneurs, not that much of a leader themselves a lot of time. Right. And then crafting to get to 30, right. That way in which that growth happens has so much to do with what you were just talking about, which is like identifying, you first need to instill leadership, but leadership at a management level, because you can't hire executively because it'll cost you too much most of the time, right? To be quite literal. Yeah. And so the goal is, yes, and doing all these other things and setting up the operating systems and do whatever. Okay. But then it's really taking you to a place where you can establish like around your 4 key departments, right? And so get marketing seat, get a sales seat, get a production seat, get a fulfillment seat, let's call it, and let's get a financial seat, right? And at least people that have a roundabout way of leading the organization in their own ways. That might be through way of someone in your back office, or the back office manager being your financial seat for the time being or whatever. But like the ultimate goal is to get that 4-legged stool to start, right? Is you got to get each peg in there, because you got one peg, you're gonna you don't have a stool, right? And then you get 2, and it's just there's instability, right? So it's the goal to get there first, right? Then to get to 30, I would say by the time we get in that realm of like the 25 to 30, it's almost every time that I've done this through consulting or whatever, that it's like we need a very prominent executive presence in our company, right? Now, that doesn't mean that we have a full-fledged executive team. Bless you. Thank you. But what it does is it's essentially cementing that the company is, it's a lot harder for a company to go wrong when you get to that point. Not that things can't go wrong, and there's a lot of smoke and mirrors out there, so don't believe everything you see. But one of the things that I see pretty universally is like at least 1, if not 2, very prominent executive business acumen level individuals that have not the facade experience, but like the real shit experience, like the real been there, done that experience. And then from there, I mean, like I said, it's a lot more question marks for me to say 330 to 300, right? I mean, obviously there's a lot of growth that happens. There's a lot of things you have to create in terms of executive leadership and boards, et cetera. I've seen some of that, but I haven't I haven't myself gone through that. And so it's crazy because like the way I talk about business is it's a math and science project. That's really what it is. It's just when I pull this lever, what happens, right? When I do this, what happens? And so I love it for those reasons because there's a game of the capitalistic elements, which I think if you're in you're competitive in nature, you're like, oh, I want to earn the most and do the most and be the best and whatever. Like, and that's most everybody's case. But I think more than anything, what I've fallen in love with in terms of business and being a lifelong learner, and this is what I try to teach my clients, is to want to be someone that can be a mechanic, right? Can be someone that's be able to pull a lever and know what it's going to do, and almost desire the education of what happens in the mechanism inside a business.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, obviously you read a lot of books. What other kinds of things do you like doing in your spare time, your free time?
Ooh, the fun stuff. How do you play harder?
Well, what's funny is I just got back from a team retreat. We did a little team retreat.
Where'd you go?
Branson, Missouri.
Branson. How was that? I've heard actually really good things about that.
Yeah, Branson's a great place. I used to go frequent Branson a lot when I was growing up. Now I use the old Gatlinburg because I'm 2 hours away from it.
It's so convenient to Indiana.
Yeah.
It's just right there.
Yeah.
So how far is Branson from here? You know?
It's like 8 hours.
Is it that far?
So that's almost double the drive.
Pretty sure. I'll look it up.
Well, what I'll say is, so how do I play harder? It's funny because I still operate in business, and I'm sure you guys have some level of experience with this, and it's weird because I'm now getting that point in my evolution where people like look at me differently and they're like, you're the boss, like you're the guy, you have all these businesses and we work for you, and I'm like, I put my underwear on the same way you do, so like there's a big disconnect for me, and I still have a very, like, from an executive level, there's a line, right? I know that, but I'm saying, like, it's just weird. So I went to this retreat. We did a lot of exercises and stuff, and it was really good. It was a really great event. It was actually like one of my best ones that we've done, and I went out on the lake and I was having a good time, just, almost like we did out in Utah, just, just having a good time, playing the music, jamming, jumping off the boat, tubing, whatever, right? Riding wakes. And, and a few people because I'm acting kind of a fool. I wasn't like drinking or nothing. I mean, I'm very professional. I always conduct myself that way, but when I'm in a group of people like that, and so I went out and having a good time, playing hard, jumping off the boat, tubing, doing all these different things. And then, we were kind of towards the end of the day, and there's like multiple employees that came up to me and they were just like, we just didn't know this like side of you. And like, you were so fun. And I was like, I'm not like, always by, business, but no. So like playing hard, man, I love golf. I love race cars. I've got an 1100 horsepower Mustang that I have I built from the ground up. So that's fun.
That's cool.
People see
what year is it?
2019.
Okay.
It's a new model, S550. Okay. But people are, always like, oh, you got a parachute. It must be fast. I'm like, yeah, I mean, it is kind of fast, like being, but no, I have that in my repertoire. And then, man, my family, actually, I haven't talked much about, on this podcast. I should have, because I've got my wife in town with me. I got 2 kids, brand new newborn and a 3-year-old. But we live on a farm in South Carolina. I say farm, 6 acres, but
now your 3-year-old's a little boy, right?
Both boys.
And
yeah.
Then, the new baby's
new baby is a boy too. Okay. Not even 2 months old. 2 months old on my other son's birthday.
Already on a road trip.
Yeah, we're already on a road trip. So, but no, we have fun. We have the farm. We've got all the animals and all the different stuff. And man, I just like I like outdoors. I'm a hiking guy and all that sort of stuff. So I love doing all that. And like what really brings me joy more than anything, like not to use the analogy of like the whole yacht thing, but man, I have some of the most gnarly bonfires. Like
the bigger the better.
Oh yeah, and I like the whole town, brother. Like I'm like, let's go, let's do this. And they'd be like, hey, can I bring my? I don't care who they are. If they got a beaten pulse, then let's bring them here, and they're gonna see something they never seen before. And so
that's hilarious.
And so I love bonfires, dude. Like we'll go out and just throw it up, and I would say it's a little pyro activity to a degree. I gasoline the hell up out of it, and then toss the match. It's just boosh, or burn furniture or do some crazy stuff, But
that's funny.
But people dig it, man. I have that's one of the things I say is like, and not to just get right back into the serious stuff, but one of the things that I thought, one of the things that I've seen as a leader that I think was really a shift for me was finding my thing that would rally my people, right?
Yeah.
Which is kind of a weird way to put that. But I started to do those bonfires, and when we do like field trips too, because we live near the mountains, so it's like really cool to go do that stuff too. But we started these bonfires, man. It was just like people were just like, they loved them. And then in addition to that, they got to see a different side of me, which was I'm never like, I'm professional, I'm never loose, I'm always just having a good time, right? And like when they got to see that, and then they got to see like how funny it is with me riding around on my dirt bike, shoeless, and doing some hooligan country boy stuff, just having a good time. People it just really bands people together to be able to, like, when you have your thing, like, find your thing and dive into that. Like, that's one of the things I've found with the bonfire thing with me is like, man, it's I'll do some ribs, I'm a big smoker guy. I'll do some ribs, break out like pizzas and all, and just like, let's just roll, let's just have a good time. And
that's cool.
I love it, man. I love it. I love being outdoors too, and that's one of our big things. So we go four-wheeling, and we I got love. Like it feels weird saying smoking, because then there's just the negative connotation with it too. But barbecuing. Yeah, I love barbecuing. All that good stuff. So you're right though. Like doing those things, like it does bring people together. I mean, it's something that you don't get to do every day. At least I don't. And it's an enjoyment that bonds people. So
yeah,
that's really cool.
And I'm a different cat too. Like, I am very serious. Like, most of the time it's business, and it's always business, because this is how my brain's wired. Like, I'm always thinking about how to like capture most opportunity out of a situation. Like, I think a lot of times it's like more of the same. I do have a little bit of shiny object syndrome, but it's not so much that. It's more of like, there's nothing that brings me more fulfillment than creating and delivering an incredible product and service at a highly efficient rate with a band of people that really give a shit about what you want to do, or what you do and what you're creating. Yeah. And something about that just fuels me, and I don't know what it is. I don't know what nuance specifically does it for me, but that, and this, the people, man, like, I know that it's serious and we're having fun, whatever, but like all these different dynamics in this thing, but I just love my people, man. Like, I love the people that I get about opportunity to lead and to serve, but then also like just the heart to hearts, the one-on-ones. Like, I spent on this last retreat, literally with my operator, a lot with my operator, but also with just everybody. I mean, hours. I don't think there was, and a lot of it is just me listening. I know I'm doing mostly the talking here, but a lot of it is just listening and just like listening to their heart and being like, let's get to the deep stuff. Let's get to the stuff that like really can impact your life. And like, that's the stuff that I think for me is what makes it all worth it, and that's really authentic. Like, that to me is the key. That's, for me, I'm not the most polished executive. I'm not the most polished. I don't have the greatest ideas a lot of times. I pride myself in kind of what I've created here, right? In terms of my competencies and skill sets, but and I haven't found the golden ticket to the 9-figure, 10-figure, whatever yet. But people, man, like, I just eat it up. It's just what it's about for me. So
that's awesome. Yeah, we feel the same way, and we talk about it all the time. But this intrinsic belief in businesses don't grow, people do, and being focused on that and in alignment with that is just absolutely key for us.
What's funny is we've had quite a few guests on now, and almost every guest, the conversation leads back to that statement. If there was one common denominator between every single podcast, it would be businesses don't grow, people do.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting, because everybody that we've had on is, an entrepreneur or something like that. So, which
is actually funny. So I'm thinking about it from that perspective too. You're exactly right. And there's a lot of people that don't look at their businesses that way. It just means that we hang out with good people.
You know what?
You guys are good.
We do hang out with
you guys people. Are good people, both of you two.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks. We appreciate that.
Well, I think that's a good way to wrap up the show.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, man. This was great.
Thank you for being here.
And thank you for doing it in an hour.
I was the alternate, but here we are. It's okay.
The other guy couldn't make it. He got caught in traffic.
You got to get the guy the B list. It's okay. I'm all right. I'm okay being B list actor, bro. It's all good.
The lunch buffet.
No, not at all. Not at all. This has been awesome. One of my favorite to sit down and do. Hey, thanks again for joining us. Make sure you do like and subscribe. Share this podcast. It helps us out a bunch. It helps us get a farther reach, and then continue to get great feedback on how we can do better and have even more guests in here and get out to go do some fun stuff. We got to do that. This is coming up. We're going to do some on-location stuff.
Yeah, when are you leaving?
I'm leaving on Monday or Tuesday.
I don't know what you have going on this weekend, but I have to go out to the property if you want to ride some 4-wheelers.
Let's do it.
There you go.
Let's do it. And no, hey guys, you guys have an awesome podcast. Appreciate you having me on. I just wanted to put that in there real quick. So
No, thanks for coming, man.
Thanks so